Okay, you ready to read a book? Right, we're reading Mr. Cheerful, and it starts, Mr. Cheerful, the end. Is that not, that's a story, isn't it? Right, we'll try again. Right, it's Mr. Cheerful, and it says, Mr. Cheerful always woke up, the end. Should we try again, shall we? Ready? Mr. Cheerful. Mr. Cheerful always woke up. The end. Again?
Again.
Do you want me to read the book properly?
Really good properly.
Okay. Mr. Cheerful. Mr. Cheerful always woke up. Do you want me to? I'll read it properly this time, okay?
Which time?
Right, I'll read it this time. Mr. Cheerful. Mr. Cheerful. What are you laughing at? That's not fun. I'm going to read it properly, okay? Mr. Cheerful. Mr. Cheerful always woke. Okay, I'll read it properly, yeah? Ready? Mr. Cheerful always woke up. Right, do you want me to read it properly? Okay. Are you composed?
I'm composed.
Okay. Mr. Okay. Is Mr. Cheerful the right book to be reading? Are you sure? Is it definitely this one you want? Right. Do it properly. Compose. Mr. Cheerful always woke up in the... I'll do it properly this time, okay? Do you really want it properly?
I'm very happy.
Okay, compose.
Simple.
Mr. Cheerful. Mr. Cheerful always woke up in a cheerful mood, with a bright smile on his face. The end. Right, okay, we will do it properly this time, okay? Right, properly. Properly. Mr. Cheerful always woke up in a cheerful mood, with a bright, sunny smile on his face. In fact, Mr. Cheerful was one of the most cheerful people. The end. Do you want to read it? You read the book. I think you'll be able to do better than me, so you read it.
Be careful.
Okay, Mr. Cheerful. There you go. You read it.
Mr. Careful.
Okay, you try again, okay.
Enjoy.
Okay, I'll do it properly, okay? Right, ready. You comfy?
I'm a puppy.
There's Green. Cuddle. Right, give me a kiss. Good boy. Mr. Cheerful. Mr. Cheerful always woke up in a cheerful mood, with a bright sunny smile on his face. In fact, Mr. Cheerful was one of the most cheerful people you were ever likely to meet. He did, however, have one secret that made him sad. But nobody knew about it, not yet anyway. All I can tell you is that he liked to keep it under his hat. Mr. Cheerful was never without a smile, from breakfast time in the morning to his bath time at night. Mr. Cheerful beamed from ear to ear. He was even happy when it rained. On a sunny day, his smile was even brighter and sunnier than the sun. Everybody around him couldn't help but feel cheerful. Even the flowers smiled when Mr. Cheerful walked past. When Mr. Funny met him, he felt so happy that he pulled an even funnier face than usual, making Mr. Cheerful laugh out loud. Then one day, while out for a walk, Mr. Cheerful bumped into Little Miss Splendid. Mr. Cheerful smiled his usual cheerful smile. Little Miss Splendid began to smile, but then she stopped and looked sternly at Mr. Cheerful. "How rude!" she exclaimed. "Young man, don't you know you should raise your hat when you meet a lady?" For the first time in his life, Mr. Cheerful lost his smile. And then he blushed bright red, but he still did not raise his hat. "You should be ashamed of yourself," cried Little Miss Splendid. "Why won't you raise your hat?" "I'm too embarrassed," replied Mr. Cheerful, blushing an even brighter red. "Without my hat on, I'm not very good looking, and that makes me sad." "Really?" asked Little Miss Splendid.
I can't.
"Let me see."
I can't.
Mr. Cheerful lifted his hat, and now I'll tell you what his secret was. Mr. Cheerful had a grand total of 1, 2, 3 hairs on his head. "Is that all you're worried about?" asked Little Miss Splendid. "Why, it's your bright sunny smile that everyone loves, not how many hairs you have on your head." And Little Miss Splendid smiled. Then Mr. Cheerful smiled. And ever since that day, he hasn't stopped smiling, and he's always quick to raise his hat. And everyone he meets goes away feeling happy and cheerful, which leaves only one thing left to say. Hats off to Mr. Cheerful. The end.
I'm again.
Well, we'll read it tomorrow. Okay, so say night night.